Bridget, what have you got to say for Let's Get Rural?
Oh, well, it's been an amazing morning so far. We're sending a huge message to the Prime Minister and the Premier that they can't take our farmers and our rural communities for granted. They've got to stop trashing private property rights. Let us get on with doing what we're doing and stop the industrial rollout of renewables in our communities.
So true. Thank you for your support.
Always, mate.
It's Kelly from Marina. Why are regional communities paying the cost for renewable energy? Where is the social licence? Where is the regulation to protect our communities, value our farmland and preserve our environment? How can state and federal government justify enabling companies like Spotting Energy to tear our communities apart?
That's Kelly Gelly, who's from Maroona, which is about 100 clicks west of here. And obviously renewables, is a huge issue with bush population at the moment.
Yeah, thanks Kelly for the question. We do need energy, and the cheapest form of new energy is renewables. So that's the first point that I'll make. Second point I'll make is that climate change, the science told us that climate change was real.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll have to stop.
In South Australia and in Western Australia. So we have, please, I'm happy to answer questions and I'm happy to engage with people respectfully. And I understand that some people have a different view. But what I won't do, what I won't ever do, is come and out of convenience just say what is convenient and people want to hear. People need to be treated with respect. And that is what I'm doing through my presence here, and I'll continue to engage, but I won't bullshit people. I won't say.
To show the best of country Victoria, to show the best. And I'm going to say I'm so proud of what the work my government is doing in regional Victoria. But when it comes to critical minerals, Victoria is where it's at. In the northeast Victoria alone, there are $200 billion worth of critical minerals. And these contain projects that can support thousands of jobs and inject billions into our regional economies. And that's why also we're supporting renewable energy projects as well. And then finally too, supporting the gas projects that will also drive our state's future.
I can't afford gas.
It's also supporting jobs, investments and opportunities in rural and regional Victoria. The work we're doing in regional Victoria is more than just about today, it is about tomorrow. It's about making sure we have the secure energy service, the secure infrastructure asset that our growing regional communities need. It's about making sure that every country kid has the same chances as a kid anywhere else. Those country kids, we want to make sure that their voice is heard. They have the opportunities my kids have today and can see their grandkids have in the future. We should be proud of living in regional Victoria because it is the best place to live. We should be using opportunities like today
where regional Victoria has the opportunity to show the rest of the country what a strong, united place we are. A place where we have great schools, great hospitals, great services, but most importantly too, a future that is built. A future that is built on by regional Victorians for regional Victorians, supporting the industries of the future, because regional Victoria is the heart of our state, it's our strength. I am proud to live and work, and I'll continue to work very hard to make the future of regional Victoria even stronger for the future.
So much. They've taught me so much because they're rural people, because they are, as I said, the spirit of Australia is in the bush, and everything that makes our country strong and forward-looking and aspirational and gives us what we uniquely have in this country. I see a lot of it that comes from rural and regional Australia. And while I didn't grow up in Australia, I'm a migrant to this country. My family came from overseas. My migrant story is very much the Australian story, and I want to champion that for everyone else who has opportunity but needs everything to get behind them, support them, and advocate their pathway in life and the choices that they make. So we have to have governments that get out of the way, not get in the way, and we have to have governments that focus on growth and the opportunity that agriculture brings to the big growth question of today. I deliberately mention that because I do think it's been overlooked, and I don't think it comes from the bush.
What are your key priorities for the bush going forward? I was out and about in Farrer earlier this week, Hay, Norwood, Ballarat, down to Morning. I want to say that under the radar. There's a lot of angst out there, not just directed at the government, directed at politics more generally. What do you believe is driving that, and how can the coalition achieve cut through on that?
My electorate is very defined by, as I mentioned, irrigated agriculture. So a water buyback that actually rips water out of the production of food and fibre is a terrible thing to do. And that actually leaves our region weaker, and it leaves our farmers and our farming communities quite rightly bewildered and angry. And the one thing I've talked about my entire time as an MP has been to champion irrigated agriculture communities. But broader than that, James, and you would have picked up on this, sadly we have a Labor government that has paused and wound back the critical funding that supports the infrastructure that we know we need, because we drive long distances. It's nothing to get in the car and drive 2 hours to take the kids to sport, turn around and do it all again. And just to get medical services, just to get education, the costs of poor infrastructure, poor roads, poor health services, lack of opportunity to education, you know, that all takes its toll. So I don't want to be unnecessarily political. I mean, my job is to hold the government to account. But I actually really do think that this Labor government does not understand rural and regional Australia. They haven't walked a mile in our shoes. I look across the chamber, and without disrespecting a single person, I don't see people that have risked $1 of their own money in a business that they didn't know would succeed, that know what it's like to do it tough. You've got to understand our lives in order to allocate the resources from the budget that we deserve.
So what is the coalition plan to reclaim those 51 odd seats that are needed to form government? Like, they're going to clearly require some fairly substantial policy and party reforms.
Policy development is underway, and it's important, and I've said this publicly, we perhaps didn't do it as well as we should have or could have in the last Parliament. And I've got a review into what happened in the campaign so that we can reassure people that we learn those lessons and that we do things differently. I'm taking the time with my team to get this right, but we will have a credible, serious policy agenda to take to the next election, and you won't have to wait until the next election until you see parts of that policy. But you are right, James, we did lose a lot of seats. We have to acknowledge that. And the challenge for us in reaching into metropolitan Australia is, and I always use this opportunity to say that the values that matter in the cities, the outer metro regions, the eastern suburbs of Sydney, the Pilbara of Western Australia, the South Australian Yorke Peninsula, they're the same values. People want a party that backs them to work hard, to have a crack, to get ahead, to give back, to be part of a community. And we should always back the people who build this country. And we know that so many of those come from regional Australia. So part of my mission is always to talk to the cities about the bush, to bring, you know, not just my story of life in regional Australia, but the lives of so many people I meet in regional Australia, to bring them to the cities, and anything we can do to encourage people to cross that great dividing range, to see for themselves what life is like, to embrace what it means to really stand up for regional Australia. These are all important themes and initiatives that I want to take on as leader.
Yeah, because obviously a lot of those policies, some are very popular in regional communities, but they don't necessarily resonate well in the city, you know, like which has a more progressive agenda in some respects. You know, if you compare the two Wentworths, the Wentworth and your electorate, where the Murray meets the Darling, you know, a town of 1,500 people, about 200% of locals voted for you at the last election, and you've got Wentworth in, you know, the Sydney's eastern suburbs, more progressive, have very strong ideas on things like live export and net zero and a number of other things. But and that kind of that electorate has shifted more to the once a very blue Liberal Party seat, it's gone more towards the independent appeals. How do you juggle those two kind of policy priorities, and will the bush ever be burnt from a policy perspective to save the city, to shore up those city seats?
The bush will never be burnt because we can't do what we do as citizens, producers, people who care about this country without the bush, and that's why the Bush Summit is so important. It's not about one or the other. Now I'm on my way, by the way, to the Wentworth show, where you and I caught up many years ago, and it's an incredible part of Australia. Lots of people in this room will have been there. The Murray meets the Darling. It's extraordinary in terms of its own productivity and what it does for the country. But I'm going to meet people at the Wentworth show who have family, kids, jobs, connections in the City of Sydney, in the City of Melbourne, and the City of Adelaide. So the conversations I have will of course be about what's happening locally, what's happening to the landscapes and lifestyles right in your region, but they will also crisscross the nation and the world. And those conversations reflect the priorities of Australians. So the challenge, I always say, of bringing the city and the bush together, it shouldn't be seen as something that is too difficult to overcome, or even should be approached with that framework in mind anyway, because we need each other and we know that our futures are inextricably linked. And that's not a difficult conversation to have with anyone.
Is the divide growing though, the city-country divide?
I don't know, no. For exactly this reason, in an increasingly connected country, in an increasingly connected world, that's definitely not happening. People might be living in the far west of New South Wales. I mean, I represent Pooncarie, a small town on the Darling. Once upon a time I represented Broken Hill. And, you know, people would jump in the car, go to Adelaide to a fly-in, fly-out job in Africa or Western Australia, or with the, you know, better connectivity, which by the way needs to speed up under this government, because it's as if it doesn't matter whether we have the right connections in the bush, because of course if you live in the bush and you can't have the phone and data connections that you need, you fix it pretty quickly if you're a politician. But if you don't live in the bush, you don't understand it. But that again enables people with high-speed internet to connect anywhere in the world. So this is, you know, this will bring us together.
Just before we run out of time, the relationship between the Liberals and your coalition partners, the Nationals, obviously we witnessed that split back in May. Did that do more harm than good? And what's the current temperature in the room, in the joint party room?
It was a settling-in period. It was an important discussion to have following the election loss that we both experienced, and it was important that we then came together to represent every single person in this room and every single person who believes in holding the Labor government to account and presenting that serious, credible alternative. It's important for the opposition parties to come together and work together. We're doing that in a very constructive way, because if I look at the range of different views, and of course there are different views inside our own party rooms and across two party rooms, that's not something to be afraid of, because The views of Australians vary, but the values are the same, and the values align.
One of the most contentious issues at the moment in the NATS is obviously net zero. Should net zero be done?
Everywhere I go, I talk to people about energy, and I'm glad you asked this question, James, because we do need to have an energy policy that delivers affordable, reliable energy and plays Australia's role in reducing emissions. But that reducing emissions part and that energy policy, it can't come at any cost. And what we're seeing with this government is no regard for the cost. So we are working through everything that we need to, and I want to reassure everyone here that that is being done in a constructive, policy-focused way. We're listening to people who care, we're listening to people who count, because they are the producers. They understand that if you want to drive productivity in this country, then one of the main factors of productivity in anything you do is energy. And if you don't get that right, you don't get the economy right. And we will stand ready to fight for that.
Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Sussan Lee. Thank you for joining us, Sussan.